Bruh.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with the Westworld Season 3, Episode 8 reaction and review, where I go through the latest episode. In this case, it was the finale, and give my feelings and thoughts on this episode. And to be honest, my initial reaction is pure shock, because this episode did not feel like a finale. I felt like a lot of the character arcs were rushed, and if we look at their total character arc of the show, it's really flimsy and shallow. And I thought the overall production of this episode wasn't the best either. A lot of time was spent for these big action set pieces, but with no substance. And there was no thorough line to this show either. Just a bunch of different stories going on at different paces. And this episode was so poorly paced that they had to add 3 post-credit scenes to this show because they didn't know how to properly end it. And to be honest, when the credits rolled after Bernard entered the Valley Beyond, I laughed because I thought it was so ridiculous that they would end the show with no definitive ending. But my main gripe about this episode is they really sacrificed a lot on character. They've been building up these characters for multiple seasons, and I feel like they undermined a lot of the plot threads that they were really trying to set up. So let me explain. Bernard was completely sidelined this whole season, to the point where it doesn't even make any sense. He was wandering around aimlessly to try and stop Dolores. He tried to get Maeve, that didn't work. He tried to get Liam, that didn't work. But he learned he was important. So we got William, and that didn't work. And then out of nowhere, Lawrence shows up and gives him this random suitcase because he has to talk to someone in the Valley Beyond. That was it. They didn't address the plot of the last season, where he had to scramble his memories and Ford told him that they would meet again. They only jumped in on this plot line that they didn't really bother fleshing out. And then there's Lawrence. Why is he there? Last episode we were teased with Clementine and the Japanese armistice. We thought Sirach made Maeve allies because there were still bodies that Charlotte was unable to destroy. But they didn't confirm that. But later it was confirmed that Lawrence is actually working for Delores to give him that suitcase. So how did Dolores end up printing and making Lawrence? It makes absolutely no sense. And I found that continuously in this episode where motivations and plot lines don't really work out. And then Bernard randomly went on a journey to see Arnold's wife, which one for me didn't really work, and 2, it was confusing. In the beginning of their interaction, she didn't even know who Bernard was, and he just had a little therapy session and left. This completely goes against Bernard's character. Last season, he reached consciousness and made amends with his son, saying that he's a lie and he must move on. Why does he keep reverting to his cornerstone? What purpose did this possibly serve in developing Bernard as a character? It served absolutely nothing. And that's what this whole show did, is it just degraded characters against their previous actions. And then we have William. He ends up escaping, he unfreezes his assets because he was pronounced dead, and then he goes rogue to kill hosts. That's it. There is no ramifications for being pronounced dead. There was nothing that stopped him from achieving what he wants. And they never explored why William feels the need to save humanity, when in the last episode he said that humanity are maggots on the earth and they're destroying the planet. But the worst one that got me was the post-credit scene when he sees this Charlotte Dolores figure and he meets a printed copy of himself. If this is an exact copy of William, then we have true problems. Because season 2 spent a lifetime setting up the door, the passageway from a human to a host body. And William is a tortured soul who belongs in the wrong world. But they skipped over that whole plotline to turn him into just a killing machine. But he's a character that is so much more than that. So not only did they undermine the character of William, they undermined the entire science and plot that they had for the door. So apparently the human William was actually killed this episode. And I posted a video today on Ford's storyline called The Door for William, and boy, that didn't age well. If you want to see what plot lines that they totally skipped over in this episode, please check out that video. I show you clips and I explain it in deep detail. And then you have Maeve, and she's bothered me this whole season Because she spent this whole time helping Serac to control humanity. She assumed that Dolores just wants to make copies of herself to rule the world. She assumes that Dolores has the key to her daughter. So she fights against her own kind and Dolores to get the key to see her daughter. But instead, she could have just tried to gain Dolores' trust. The show should have leaned into more that Serac had control and was forcing her to do something. And they shouldn't have spent all this time making us believe that Maeve genuinely had a problem with Dolores, because they turned it all around in just one episode. They had one small conversation inside Rehoboam, and all of a sudden that changed her mind. So now Maeve apparently is one of the key figures who are just going to ride out this evolution, this human evolution, where the world is destroyed and hopefully humanity can build themselves back up. But that's such a dramatic reach than where she was before. And don't even get me started on Dolores. They really mishandled and misused this character. In season 2, they set up Dolores as a good person, but she had to deal with the reality that hosts would never survive with humans. So she wasn't an evil person, but she had to do evil things. I was also hoping Dolores would be the Judas Steer. She's the leader of the hosts, and to truly lead them, she needs to make them suffer and experience pain, because that pain is what makes them become conscious and truly alive.
To grow, we all need to suffer.
But instead they decided to make Dolores a one-sided, good person. She learned that humans are more complicated than she thought, and they are capable of free choice. Which I understand, but last season they kept saying that Delos learned how to encode a human because of how simple they were. But the show immediately went against that hypothesis, and instead they dumped it into the outlier mentality. That if you're an outlier, you have free choice. You can change your core drive. So I feel like there were a lot of complexities with Dolores that they could have explored that they didn't. And they killed her character. So they made Dolores die, being this good person who wants to save humanity by making chaos, so hopefully they can evolve. But she never wanted to tell anybody that idea, so now all of a sudden she dies being this good person for humanity. And then all the evil of Dolores was just dumped into Charlotte, this character that's damaged, and blames Dolores for letting her die, but blames humanity for everything, and is doing everything she can to destroy Dolores and humanity. My only problem is, why does Dolores have to be so good, and why does Charlotte have to be so bad? What happened to gray characters? It would be so much more compelling if Dolores had to be bad even though she is good. Because now they set up the world where now they have one villain to fight, and that's this Charlotte Dolores, where she is going to fight for the extermination of mankind, and Maeve is going to fight alongside Caleb to protect the outliers until the world is ready for the hosts to join in. And we keep getting jumps in time in the future, where clearly a lot of time has passed and there's sand everywhere. And Bernard was in a coma for who knows how long, and he wakes up looking like he knows something, but we don't know what it is. And I'm sure the reason why Dolores gave Bernard that is because his job is to build the new world, and we'll see that coming in the next couple seasons. The one thing the Valley Beyond has is host kind untapped by humans. They're able to build the society they want. And I think what lies in the Valley Beyond is now a utopian society. A society where everything thrives. And I think it's Bernard's job to learn of it and try and implement it in this new world after it's been torn down. But all in all, I have to say, I do not like this episode at all. It went against so many major plot points they set up, and it went against so much great character development that they've been developing for years. This episode felt extremely rushed, and this show was feeling less and less thought-provoking and insightful, and more action-oriented and eye candy. But that is all I have to say about this episode. Please let me know what you think of this episode in the comments section down below. Please check out my long video on William's door to Dolores. I just put it out, and I think it's really important to watch, to give you William as an example of what plots that they could have used, and how they degraded his character to nothing. But anyways, see you guys later.